What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to your home for all things combat sports.
Yo.
So, Nick, what a difference a flight makes. Jan Błachowicz, the rumor has it, got onto a flight that was over 10 hours just a couple of days ago and had no cell reception and no Wi-Fi. When he landed, he found out he's fighting Magomed Ankalaev for the undisputed title.
This thing's crazy. And the UFC always has a backup plan, and when that falls through, they have a backup plan. And it does suck to see Glover Teixiera not get that title shot right at the end of the year. You know, his camp has a ton of momentum with Alex Pereira just getting the belt at 185, and then you had an opportunity for him to fight on the next pay-per-view to steal the other belt at 205. Some things just don't go your way, and we all hope that Jiří Procházka can heal up and get better, because from what I'm understanding, this is one of the worst shoulder injuries they've seen in a meaningful period of time in an MMA fighter. So I do feel bad for him, and I feel bad for Glover, but it does make sense why Glover wouldn't want to just jump in and take Magomed Ankalaev on 2 weeks or 3 weeks notice. I think this is a proper interim belt situation. I think that the two guys that are in there definitely deserve it. Jan Błachowicz was just the champion. He looked really good in there in some of his title fights. And Magomed Ankalaev is one of those freaks that's almost too good to be anywhere else but in a title fight, because he's just so talented. I feel like this is a great opportunity for either one of them. Jan Błachowicz has been there before, so he might not be quite as hungry as Magomed Ankalaev, but either way, I think we've got a real scrap on our hands.
Yeah, Ankalaev is very hungry, and I think in a lot of ways this was more of a short notice deal for Jan than it was for Magomed, because I think he kind of has known over the past 12 months that he is heading squarely in the direction of a title shot, and then the fact that he's on a card where there's a title being contended for in his weight class, I'm sure it was running through the back of his mind all training camp that if anything happens here, I'm the guy. And that's exactly what happened. Jiří Procházka, and credit to Procházka, because I can't stand when a fighter holds up a division. I can't stand when there's a injury that's going to sideline them for a year, or there's contract negotiations or whatever there may be, and they just say, you know what, I'm going to hold the title, sit back and hold up the division for a year. Jiří Procházka is a true warrior in every sense. He said, look, I'm vacating the title. I don't care who's the champion when I come back, because I'm confident I can beat them all. I don't want to hold the division up, and I'm going to let these other guys contest for my belt, and then when I'm healed up, we'll handle the business. So credit to Procházka for that for sure. But then when you look at Glover was essentially given a very short notice phone call saying, you got to go in there with Magomed Ankalaev. And at 42 years old, this is really Glover's last title opportunity. And to take a short notice fight against a guy who's 18-1 like Magomed, and who's literally good in all aspects of mixed martial arts, that's a tough hill for Glover to climb. So I don't blame him for taking a step back and saying, let me fight Jan Błachowicz instead. But then you had the UFC matchmakers who pushed back and said, well, we already saw you versus Jan Błachowicz, and we know how that goes. So it's Magomed, or we're moving on. And so he let them move on. That's kind of how the story went, as far as I understand it. So kind of sucks for Glover, because who knows if it's a great fight between Jan and Magomed, and then Jiří can come back quickly. You never know how long or if Glover will ever get back in there for a title fight again. However, we do have a great main event nonetheless.
We certainly do. And Glover Teixiera has every right to pull out of this fight. You know, you don't want to go in there for maybe your last title opportunity in your entire fight career and take a short notice fight against somebody who is very good, would probably come in as the favorite, and would be a totally different matchup than what you've been planning for. Procházka is somebody that he has felt and he knows he can win rounds against and essentially win a fight against. You know, I know he didn't get his hand raised in that last one, but he was definitely winning the rounds, and even up until that very last minute was winning that final round. And when it comes to Jan Błachowicz, he knows he can get his hand raised against him. When you don't know the beast that you're going in there with, it can be a little bit daunting, and I understand why Glover wouldn't do that. I do feel like the UFC is playing ball with Glover Teixiera. They understand that he's 42, 43 years old. He doesn't have that many more fights left in him. And if he's going to do it one more time, he's been such a good company man for all these years. I just feel like Glover Teixiera can take a back seat, and he won't really have to do any heavy lifting. I don't even know if he'll ever have to fight in a fight again that's not a title fight. And we can just sort of see where everything falls once this fight happens. Because if Ankalaev and Jan Błachowicz go out there and give us a fight like we saw Jiří and Glover give us not long ago, people are going to be wanting to see one of them, whoever wins, fight Jiří Procházka, and that could sideline Glover for a whole nother year, and who knows what's going to happen. So it gets a little bit messy, but I do think this was the right call on Glover's part, and obviously you got to give credit to Jiří Procházka for not saying he didn't want to hold up the division. That's an awesome move.
And we'll obviously get into the X's and O's when fight week rolls around, but this is a great fight. Ankalaev versus Błachowicz. You have the experience of Błachowicz and that famous Polish power, but then you have somebody who's 10 years his junior in Ankalaev and is really really good everywhere and looks pretty unstoppable lately. So I can't wait to actually break down the X's and O's of the fights. Ankalaev right now is sitting at a 2.5 to 1 favorite, but who knows? Those odds will probably get closer as fight night approaches. But I'm very excited to see how this one shakes out, and I do think it's a fight that's winnable for both men.
I agree, and I think the UFC knows that this fight's going to be fireworks from start to finish. You got somebody with crazy punching power in Jan Błachowicz and somebody who also has a ton of knockout power in Ankalaev. So I feel like this fight's going to end in a finish. I won't give my official prediction, but right now, no matter who gets their hand raised, I think they're going to get it via TKO or KO.
Nice call. Thanks for watching this video, guys. We're your hub for all things combat sports. If that's your jam, we appreciate a subscribe and a like on the video, and drop us a comment down below. We'll see you next time.
Peace.